Welcome to the Suffering Meatball Chronicles, the podcast where we relive the sound and the sweet chaos of live music. We are your host, Johnny Epiphone, and I'm Rob Henry. And here's the deal. This show is all about concerts we've seen, the stories we've lived, and the moments that made us feel alive, even if the details are a little fuzzy.
We may not always remember the exact dates, the full set lists, or even the band names. Please don't judge us. But we remember how it felt, from tiny dive bars to massive stadiums, from legendary acts to that one guy with the harmonica. This is our passion for live shows, loud nights, and the beautiful mess of music fandom.
So grab a drink, settle in, and let's stumble down memory lane, because even if the facts aren't perfect, the vibes are. It was summer of 1989 when Johnny and I decided to drive to Norfolk, Virginia, and go see Metallica at the Norfolk Scope on March 11th, 1989. So we had just met in college. It was probably a few months later, right? Or you were in college. I was not going to that college. You have to go
I
back
don't
and
know.
listen
By
to that
then, I
struggle.
might have dropped out by then.
You might have dropped out by 89. That's funny.
Yeah.
So, okay. Um, I was a huge Metallica fan at the time. This was during the Injustice for All tour.
Yes.
And any Metallica fan in the early days will tell you that the Injustice for All tour lasted for like 3 years. I saw them several times with many opening bands. But tonight's episode, we're going to talk about the opening band that was there that night in March with us, a band out of Seattle called Queensryche.
Yes.
And they were an up and coming what they called progressive metal at that time, but yet they had the early flair of like hair band. They were trying to jam them in that hair band
Well, yeah, their
and
what was
niche.
it? Their first album that they did the weird hair and the
Yes,
makeup
Final
for
Warning,
the promo.
or whatever it
Yeah,
was. Final
yeah,
Warning was the
yeah. Because
first
their
album,
first release was the EP Queen of the Reich, and
right?
then came the album
Right.
and they had an outside writer on one of the tracks on that album. What's that guy's name? Oh well, it's irrelevant.
It's
But
okay.
yeah,
It's all right.
they
It's
got
irrelevant
lumped.
what that guy's
They
name
got
is.
lumped in with the hair bands for a hot minute, and
Yeah, they
then they
did because they were wearing leather and they had their hair all spiked up, and they were trying to fit in with all the hair band metals at that time. At least
but
their
they
look,
were
but their
yeah, but they
sound was not there at all.
no, not at all.
They were really more progressive metal, something that we hadn't seen in a while. A little bit of originality coming out of Seattle, the Seattle metal scene back then. Um, I do remember the day that Operation Mindcrime came out. It took a little while for me to kind of comprehend the whole album, because the only other concept album that I, really, there was a couple, Dark Side of the Moon, right? Okay.
Right,
Got it.
Tommy
Got it. Yep. And Tommy, really.
Quadrophenia.
Quadrophenia. But this was like a metal album that was a full kind of concept album.
Yes, high
And,
art.
and yeah, high art. Exactly. So Johnny and I decided we would buy tickets. We live in Northern Virginia, and then drive the hour to Richmond or Norfolk or whatever it was, 3 hours, and get a hotel room with our good friend Steve Davis.
Yes, good old
R.I.P.
Steve.
That guy, rest his soul. Taken too early from us in a freak accident um,
Yeah,
in the early 90s. He jumped out of a plane and his parachute didn't work. And that was the day before they did the, what do they had the assist, what do they call it? When two people jump out of a plane.
oh
Um,
yeah, yeah. The
yeah, yeah, yeah.
assisted jump,
The
the
assisted
buddy
jump,
jump.
right? The buddy jump. Yeah, that was the days before that. He went through the class and fell to his death. His chute never opened.
And his
Um,
reserve chute didn't either.
and his reserve chute didn't. And you know, we have many stories about Steve Davis, and it was us three, and we packed into my '75 Chevy Malibu Classic. Uh,
Yes, the
as it was burnt
taco.
orange. Yes, the taco. We called it the taco because at that time I had the gigantic tires in the back and the small tires up front, just like we used to do in the 80s with the air shocks. It was burnt orange. It was a four door, had a tan vinyl top, and a Chevy 350 in it. So we jumped in that thing. We drove all the way to Norfolk to go see Queensryche because Metallica had been touring so much that this was the only way to capture Queensryche. Right? They never came to Washington and did like a club tour that
They
I can
always
recall.
opened when they played Washington. They when I was in high school, I remember they opened for somebody. I can't remember who, but I remember
Right.
some friends of mine went. And
But like we discussed in our first episode, they never came to a Bayou or a Jack's or any place like that. They were always on a bigger tour, accompanying a bigger artist that was the opening act.
yeah, at least as I recall, I don't know if they ever played Hammerjacks on their own or anything.
Right. And by that time, Operation Mindcrime had dropped. And it took a little while for that album to actually catch on. Um, I Don't Believe in Love, I think was the big single that really hit the radio off that album, right? That
Yeah,
was like the first one. And the album is very dark in the beginning. There's some crazy lyrics that they sing, but anyway, we jumped in the car, we drove down there, and I think you needed earplugs, right? We were looking for earplugs,
yes,
right?
yeah. We decided we needed earplugs because Metallica definitely had the reputation even back then as being outrageously loud.
Right. And Johnny was teaching me back then to take care of my ears. Until this and until this day, I still take care of my ears, and I would recommend everybody take care of their ears because, live music will make you deaf if you're standing next to a loud PA
Yeah,
in
especially
an
if you're standing
indoor
next to
enclosure.
a PA.
Yeah, yeah, I have permanent damage from Kiss in the '70s, but we can talk about that on another episode. Um, yeah, so here's three young guys, um, you know, um, cruising down south. We get a hotel room. We go get earplugs, and coming out of the parking lot of whatever it was, Rite Aid or
CVS or
Walgreens or the
whatever.
CVS, whatever. Right. You got your earplugs. I think we got some parking lot beers. Right. I'm sure we had the cooler. Steve and I were drinking, and of course, back then, um, I did stupid things that you know required me to drive while I was like maybe semi intoxicated. I don't really remember. It was so long
Which
ago.
we
I can't,
definitely don't recommend.
but I misjudged the medium strip. Right, it was a 4-lane road with a medium strip down the middle of it, and I misjudged it, and I I took the old taco over the medium strip into oncoming traffic.
Yes, we were going the
Oh,
wrong way.
we were going the wrong way. Yep. And somehow I ended up in the left turn lane. I think the medium ended and I just pulled over and we were in a left turn lane. Nothing happened to the car, but it was a total freak out because I totally misjudged. And I don't think I was at all intoxicated at that point because we had, just got to
No,
town, just got to the hotel, dropped all our stuff.
it was
And
an
then,
honest mistake.
yeah, it was an honest mistake trying to get us to the 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 auditorium, or I guess you want to call it whatever stadium. It's not really a stadium. I don't know how many. I would, Johnny, type into Google how many seats are there at the Norfolk Scope. Even if does that place still exist? Let's talk about
I
that.
don't know. I don't
That's how
know.
long ago it was. It was a long time ago. Um, it really was. So let me see here. Let me see how old I was. I'm going to look up how old I was. 1989, right? I'm messing up 19.
It's
I was
11,000 seats.
11,000 seats, and I was 24 years old at the time.
I
And
was 22.
yeah. And Steve was the same age as I was. He was 24, and had just moved to Northern Virginia from San Diego. His dad was a Navy guy. I want to say
Yeah, I
maybe,
think he was
yeah.
Navy.
I
Was
think
he
it
a
was
pilot
Navy. Or why would he
or was
move to
he
DC if he was Navy? I really don't remember. He was
work at the
in the Air
Pentagon
Force.
maybe?
I don't remember.
A lot of people
I
moved to
not
DC
really.
to work at the Pentagon.
Right. So they moved to town. He worked at Jiffy Lube with my brother Mike Henry, and we met at Jiffy Lube, and we instantly became friends. And him and I spent many hours listening to that Mind Crying album together, because I had just broken up with that girl who totally crushed my heart, and that album helped me get through that, and gave me a lot of self worth, even though the beginning of it is very dark. Uh, so we make it to the stadium, we roll on in, and we go right to the floor. As I remember, we didn't have seats. We
No.
had GA standing only.
Yeah, we did. We stood in the general admission area on the floor for the whole show, and Queensryche was just amazing. I think most people were there for Metallica, but Queensryche was just captivating. I mean, I remember the buzz on that album before it came out. My friends in the metal record industry were telling me that, hey, this is going to be a big album for them. And I was like, oh, okay, I'll keep that in mind. I'll give it a listen for sure. I like their earlier stuff.
Yeah, and when I Don't Believe in Love dropped, they got picked up on heavy rotation by MTV, and got some radio play at least out west. They got a lot of radio play, and I Don't Believe in Love did hit rock stations at one time, but people didn't know how to take them on this album, because this is like, unless you were a Queensryche fan for the first album, and then went back to the EP and really learned about the band, you weren't anticipating a new album from them. But 89 was a great year for breakout bands. So many good albums in 89. Uh, just I'm sure we can talk about that on another episode. But when they dropped that album, yeah, they came out kind of hair band, and kind of, I mean, I guess they all had their own style. I just remember Chris DeCarmo and his guitar playing being like so meticulous and sounding so awesome. It wasn't loud when they were playing, right?
It was loud, but it wasn't bad. It wasn't excruciating like when Metallica came on.
Right,
And
right.
Operation Mindcrime, which was released in '88, uh, must have been the end of '88. I think. I'm not
Yeah, it
sure,
was it was toward the end of '88.
but
I
that
think
was
you're right.
their third album, their fourth release, because their first album was the EP, and then they released the Warning, and then Rage for Order was the album we were talking about, where they looked like they were trying to join the hair metal ranks, and
Right.
they got made up really glammy, and
Yeah,
people
they
were like,
did.
"What the heck, man?"
Lots of crazy artwork. Um, but I mean that that Operation Mindcrime album
It
just
was it was special. It
it was
was
special.
it was a complete story that you could follow, and the music was just great every track. It really was.
Right. So, do you want to go over the set list? I got the set list in front of me.
Okay,
Um, it was
hit
10
me.
songs. So I figure it was about 45-minute set, right? 10 songs.
Yeah,
So it was about a 45-minute set. And they didn't have like a whole bunch of like sparklies on what I call sparklies on stage. It was them and just, you know, some lights, right? There was no fire or
I
they
do
set up.
remember the drummer's drum set had the chains. Remember that, the black
Yes.
chains all over it.
Yes. What is the drummer's name?
Uh
Scott. I don't think he's in the band
Wilson,
anymore. Yeah. Uh,
Scott Rockenfield.
Scott Rockenfield. Right. Exactly. I don't think he's in the band anymore. I think he stopped
Oh,
touring once they.
it says he's still in the band since
Oh,
'82.
really?
Him and
Okay.
Eddie Jackson on
So
bass.
nice. Nice. And yeah, we all know what happened with Jeff Tate. And people
Yes.
still wish that this original band would get back together, but I don't think Chris DeGarmo has any.
Well, Chris DeGarmo's not even in the band anymore.
Yeah, I
Michael
mean
Wilton still is.
yeah. Oh, okay, cool. So they played 10 songs. They opened up with Queen of the Reich, and then they went into a melee of songs from Operation Mindcrime, Anarchy X, and Revolution Calling, which at the time was uh, was a a really controversial song at that time, um, because it spoke of things that are kind of did you hear that?
Yeah.
That are kind of reminiscent of how I felt uh, in 2020 during the pandemic. But anyway, we can talk about that later. Uh, Operation Mindcrime was the fourth song. Then Speak, which is a killer song on top of Spreading the Disease. So one, two, three, four, five songs off of Operation Mindcrime. Then they go old school with Take Hold of the Flame. And then they come back with The Needle Lies and Chemical Youth, which again are Chemical Youth. That's on Warning. The Needle Lies is on Operation Mindcrime. And then they close with Eyes of a Stranger.
Yes.
So yeah, it was about a 45-minute set. And, at that time, there was a lot of freedom in music that
Yes.
probably isn't so apparent today.
It's
And
more
and
formulaic today, more sticking to the formula, the pop formula
right,
these days.
and we're both from DC, and the one of the some of the lyrics here from Revolution Calling kind of hit home with me, and it still kind of does. You know, got no love for politicians or that crazy scene in DC. It's just a power mad town. But the time it's ripe for changes, there's a growing feeling that taking a chance on a new kind of vision is due. So, and then, later on in the song, uh, he talks about, let's see, where is it? He talks about burning the White House down.
Why don't you tell the story of Operation Mindcrime, the basic plot of it? Give us a synopsis, Rob,
Okay.
if you
Well,
remember. It's been
I
a while,
do
I know.
remember, I do remember the story of a lady of the night by the name of Mary
Yep.
and a young man who was conflicted, probably had some mental issues. We really didn't talk about it back then. It wasn't really known as mental issues. Everybody just figured the guy was crazy. But he was manipulated by Dr. X. These are all characters within the um, of the concept album, right? So you have Mary as a character. I don't remember the guy's name. Uh, I'm sure that he had a name too. And Dr. X. And Dr. X was this like cult of personality figure, for lack of a better term,
Yes.
who convinced this guy that he needed to kill Mary, right? Who had become prostitute to nun, right? And it was all part of this big plan. And it didn't work out too well for this guy.
No, and
Um,
actually, I'm reading right now the two studios they used to record it. One was in Gladwine, Pennsylvania, and the other was in Quebec, Canada. I never knew that. I assumed they recorded it in L.A., but they did not.
LA or Seattle, but they're that they were way before the grunge Seattle scene. So
Nicky
um,
was the name of the drug addict who becomes
Nikki,
disillusioned with the corrupt society of
yes,
his time.
yes. Uh, I used to trust the media to tell us the truth, but now I've seen the payoffs everywhere I look. Who do you trust when everyone's a crook? Uh, I mean, kind of, you know.
Prophetic.
Yeah, I don't want to. I don't want to lean either way, but it 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 kind of foretold a lot of things in American politics. And I mean, this basic story is just made up. So, you know,
Yes, it's all
um,
fictional. It's not based on any
it's all
one
fictional.
real thing.
And yeah, it's not. It was all just fictional. Um, the song "Revolution Calling" doesn't talk about burning the White House down. It was the other song.
Well, the
Uh,
two singles off it were "Eyes of a Stranger" and "I Don't Believe in Love," which we previously discussed,
yeah,
and they were their
"Eyes of a
first
Stranger."
charting hits in the U.S.
Yes, "Eyes of a Stranger." I think that's the
And the
song.
album was certified gold in early '89 and was certified platinum 2 years later.
Wow. I think they were up for a Grammy too, right?
I can't remember. That might have been back still before the no, by '89 I think the Grammys did have a hard rock heavy metal award because famously Metallica lost Jethro Tull
Yes.
somewhere around then. But the videos, that was back when videos were huge and the videos were really well done for this album. I remember anxiously waiting for like, oh, there's a new Queensryche video coming out for Operation Mindcrime. Got to check it out.
Yeah, I'm looking at the Grammy page, and it it doesn't mention the nominees, but it definitely said that Metallica won that year with the song "One." Uh, so that was cool, I guess.
Oh, I'm reading now. The idea for the album came to Jeff Tate after moving to Montreal, Canada, and listening to the loose talk of members of the militant Quebec separatist movement who had grown friendly with him, some of whom were in organizations which engaged in bombing and terrorism. Not exactly great friends, Jeff.
Yeah, I didn't know there was a revolutionary fact in Canada. I had no idea of that whatsoever.
I knew there was because the French Canadians want to have their own separate Canada, and that's been going on for a while. But apparently, he also incorporated some of his memory of friends who would become derelicts due to heavy drug use. So Nicky might have been might have been an amalgamation of different people Jeff knew.
Uh, uh, sorry, I hit a YouTube commercial.
Oh,
Did you
no
hear that?
worries. I heard that.
Okay. Yeah, they don't mention the. I thought they mentioned it in the song.
Maybe it was on Mindcrime too.
Yeah, I think it was no, it was definitely on this album. I just don't remember what song it was. Somebody will tell us. Um, so okay, so back to the story. Uh, yeah, Queensryche. I mean, that was the first time that I saw that band. Again, they didn't come to DC as a opening act, not to any of the venues
As a
here
headliner, you mean?
as a headliner, right? So they toured. Uh, they toured with Metallica. Um, I, I do remember the Metallica show, but I had already seen it like 4 or 5 times before that. You know,
But
maybe
that
not.
was their first. Was it? No, it wasn't their first tour with Jason Newsted. It was their second because they toured Garage Inc. Revisited as their first. The Monsters of Rock tour was their first with Jason Newsted.
Yes, and I was there at RFK Stadium for that show. That's another story. I have a lot of Metallica stories, and I want to talk about Queensryche. Um, the next chance that I got to see Queensryche um, was in the early '90s, and at that point they were actually doing the full Mindcrime album, and then bringing in a few hits later on.
Was that the Empire tour
Yeah, the
in
Empire tour.
'90?
Yeah, in '90. Yep, yep, yep. Was it '90? Yeah, yeah, it was '90. That was a great album too. But that Operation Mindcrime definitely holds a special place in my heart. And going there with you and Steve and having those memories. I mean, it's a little fuzzy, right? Because it's been a long
It's
time.
been 36 years.
Yeah, it's been 36 years.
We had a good time. That I definitely remember. I can't remember a lot of details, but I remember just the camaraderie and the the funness of it all.
Yeah, we got a hotel with the two double beds, and I slept in the same bed with Steve that night. While you got the other bed because your big ass needed it itself.
Sometimes it's advantageous to be 6'5".
I don't remember like any of the food that we had.
I'm
I
trying to think of.
guess
We
it,
must have eaten fast food because we were poor in our early 20s, so we
yeah,
weren't eating at fancy
yeah,
restaurants.
yeah, and getting a hotel room back then was pretty revolutionary, even though it was in Norfolk.
Yeah, we had to have a credit card. I'm assuming, right? Who had the credit card? You? I don't
Yeah,
think I had a credit card.
probably. Yeah, it was probably me. It was probably me. Uh, but yeah, we just pulled up and said we need a couple of rooms. There was no hotels.com. You know what I mean?
Or Expedia or
Or Expedia or any of those book it apps or anything like that. Uh, Nothing like that existed. So, and of course, we didn't have GPS. We had maps. So we had to
yes, we
find
had to look at a piece of damn paper to find our way, and God help you if you got lost while you were driving and you didn't have anybody to look at a map for you.
yeah, navigation was key back then. It definitely was. And so we made it there. We made it home. It was a very memorable night. And I definitely enjoyed going to see them at that time of my life. Uh, Again, I don't think I saw them again. I'll have to look. But I think my wife and I saw them at the Patriot Center
Oh
many
wow.
years many years later. Yeah, I'll have to look up those memories.
We
But
should talk about the Patriot Center at a future time. I just want to say the Patriot Center was the arena that George Mason University had, and some great mind decided that they shouldn't run it themselves. So I want to say Cellar Door was the people who ran it.
yeah, I wouldn't doubt it that it was Celador.
And I mean, it's not like they did a bad job, but if if the university had run it, it would have been better for the students for sure.
Yeah, that place still stands. It's not called the Patriot Center anymore.
Eagle
But
Bank Arena.
it was built for basketball, right? I mean, it was built for the basketball team, right?
Yes, yeah,
The
mainly, yeah.
basketballs team, yeah. So,
Apparently, it's just a little the floor is a little too small for a full-size professional hockey rink, which meant that Mason would never get a hockey team, but that's okay because they didn't have a football team either.
yeah, I don't think they have a football team. Now, the basketball team did make it to the Final Four in the late '90s, I wanna say. I don't know. I
Early
really don't know.
2000s.
Early 2000s. Yeah, they
Yeah,
made a run for the Final Four, which, did a lot for that small little college there in Fairfax, Virginia.
but they've always had good soccer teams, good volleyball teams, good track teams. So they sports-wise, they've been on the map for a while. And when I was going, they were known for their nursing school. Their nursing school was one of the top in the country.
Right, and, they have a great, law, uh, college there as well.
Yeah, in Arlington.
Alright, well, that was our Queensryche story from 1989 from what we can remember. Um, you know, Johnny and I jumping in that old Malibu classic. I really wish I'd never gotten rid of that car, even though it was a four-door, but I had a lot of adventures in that car, so there we go. There's, Queensryche, 1989, March 11th of, 1989, where Johnny and I and Steve Davis made the adventure, uh, to go to the Norfolk Scope in Norfolk, Virginia to see Metallica and Queensryche.
And that's a wrap on this episode of Suffering Meatball Chronicles. Thanks for rolling through the memories with us, no matter how fuzzy the details were. We might not get every date right or remember every band name perfectly, but the energy, the stories, that's what really sticks. This show is all about celebrating the magic of live music, one meatball memory at a time.
Until next time, keep your ears open, your heart loud, and never trust your set list memory after beer number 3
Or 4 or 5.
or 4 or 5. Yeah, depending on, yeah, how many you had in the parking lot before.